Morning. My name is Richard Wexler, and this is Caring in America, the podcast for caregivers and care recipients. We have a special guest this morning. Before I get to her, wanted to do a recap like I always do. Who am I? Why am I doing this? So go back about 18 years. I'm minding my own business in the software industry. My wife and I got married later. We had two small children, one 11, one 7. The summer of '05, the phone rings 4 times. Both her parents, both my parents, all extremely ill. So we, like the average American, had done no planning. We don't want you folks to follow our footsteps. And all of a sudden, we found ourselves in a brand new adventure, taking care of all 4 parents. And that adventure lasted 14 years until the last parent passed away in 2019 at 96. Roll the clock back about 16, 17 years, left what I was doing in software, started my company, Points of Life, read up on everything I possibly could read about this little small word care that I didn't understand, started teaching people all over the country. Been fortunate to teach a lot of people around the nation. About a year ago, said I'd like to reach out to even more people. How do I do that? Started looking into a podcast that we launched earlier this year. So I'd like to start with a bio of our guest this morning. Her name is Michelle Cohn. She's the Senior VP of Training and Brand Programs at HomeWell Care Services. She has dedicated her career to improving the value of home care across the care continuum. She has 25 years of experience in the post-acute care space, and she's worked with many of the top regional healthcare and home care facilities in Texas, as well as some of the best-known agencies nationwide before she joined HomeWell Care Services in 2016. Today, Michelle equips HomeWell's franchises with a purposeful brand program, industry-leading training to help them differentiate themselves from other agencies. Through her innovative leadership and extensive training for franchise owners and support staff, she has helped steer HomeWell in a period of unprecedented success. Since 2019, HomeWell has achieved over 90% unit growth and expanded its footprint into more than 30 new states. Michelle, are you there, ma'am?
I am, Richard. Hello and good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Good morning to you. I hope you are well.
I am very well. I'm adapting to the cold weather that we're experiencing here in December, but yeah, we're doing well.
Yep. We're the same. We're about, I think my degree ticked up 1 in a few minutes. It's now 28 where I am outside of
Woo.
Boise, Idaho. So it'll definitely wake you up if you journey outside. So
Oh, my goodness.
let me ask you some questions. I mean, you began with HomeWell, I believe, in 2016. As we've talked about, you have more than 25 years in the post-acute care arena. What attracted you to this industry? And then secondly, what brought you to HomeWell?
Those are great questions. So I would say to start with, I was very intrigued by the opportunity to bring my years of knowledge and experience working within the post-acute care space to HomeWell. Having worked with facility-based care and home health care for decades, I really recognize this changing shift in demographics when it came to care preferences, from facility care to home delivered care. I recognize that more and more patients, clients, and families, when given the choice, prefer to age in place at home, receive their services in the home environment. And studies show that when services are provided in the home, the outcomes can be even greater than those that are oftentimes found in the facility space. I really enjoyed in the non-medical home care, personal care industry, this client-centered, client-driven focus, care that is directed and driven by the clients and families themselves. What type of care do they need? When do they need it? How often do they need it? How do they need it? And the client and the families are more at the center of the care conversations than major insurers, which I really appreciate in this space.
Very interesting. And I know when I talked about your bio, we talked about putting together a brand to really distinguish your services from other care providers. How are you doing that? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So, that's a very tall order. And I saw an opportunity to do something that many other brands just weren't doing. It's not just about placing a caregiver in the home of the clients we serve. It's important for our agencies to take a more holistic approach to in-home care that focuses both on accomplishing those basic self-care daily living tasks, those ADLs we hear a lot about, but also improving the overall well-being of every individual that's entrusted to our care. And we noticed that there were some commonalities in the care needs for the clients that we were servicing. While many of the needs and wants are very diverse, and there are many different routes in which we can help our clients, we noticed that these three things seem to run true. One is that they wanted their loved ones to stay out of the hospital or rehab system, right? Oftentimes our aging loved ones are this revolving door. They have a fall, they have an emergency room visit, they go to the hospital for a few days, they go to rehab for a few weeks or a few months, then they're discharged back home, they're home for a while, and then they repeat the process. So what intentional program can we create to kind of meet the clients where they are and try to reduce the likelihood of this revolving door in and out of the hospital or rehab system? We also noticed that number two, falls. Falls are always prevalent among our aging population is the number one reason for emergency room visits and hospital stays. And anytime a loved one has had a fall, it increases the likelihood that they're going to have another. So oftentimes if seniors or loved ones are telling us that they've had a fall, chances are they've had more than one, and they have kept that from us for a while, right? They don't always like to tell their adult child or even their healthcare providers that they've had a fall because they're concerned that that might mean a facility placement is on the horizon. So what can we do to get ahead of that and be preventive in trying to identify those fall risks and do all we can to reduce the likelihood of a future fall? And the last opportunity that we really saw when we were polling our consumers and identifying what they need us for is that loved ones may be socially isolated or experiencing loneliness. They may be caring for an aging spouse themselves or a partner or that loved one has passed away. Oftentimes in this landscape, adult children may live many miles or even states away from their aging parent, and they withdraw into the home environment. This also may be partnered with medical limitations. Maybe they need adaptive equipment like a walker. They may have limited vision or be unable to drive due to medical restrictions. So they tend to isolate within their home. And this can be a challenge when we are wanting our clients and our aging population to take advantage of all that life has that to offer and maintain that high quality of life. So given that information and recognizing that this was a challenge, we identified as a brand that this would be an opportunity. to meet our clients where they are, to meet the families where they are, to even meet our medical partners where they are, to fill this gap and create what we call our signature programs to address those main challenges.
That is fantastic. And as you're talking, it's kind of bringing me back to the adventure we were on taking care of our own parents. I mean, they were in the hospital, they were in skilled, they were in our home, they were in assisted living,
Mm-hmm.
they were in their home. And what we found, they were the happiest when they were in their own home. And we experienced exactly what you're talking about, that revolving door where there'd
Yes.
be a fall. A couple times there were falls, and even with x-rays and so on, it was hard to determine if a hip had been broken, which eventually it turned out it had.
Mm.
So we've experienced all of that. One thing that I'm seeing as I did my research on HomeWell, you guys provide a designated care manager along with the caregivers. Can you talk to our audience more about that?
Sure, I absolutely can. So each HomeWell client that enters our system is assigned what we call a dedicated HomeWell Care Manager. And this person's focus at the agency level is to ensure that their clients receive the highest level of quality care available to them. We often refer to our home well care managers as the agency's home care quarterback. And given the fact that you and I were just briefly chatting about football this morning before we
Yes.
started, I think that that is a very suitable term for that. They kind of control all, they oversee all. Um, they visit with the client and, if possible, the family as well to get to know them. What are their goals? What do they desire? This is all part of our comprehensive needs assessment. Care manager, the more that they get to know the family, get to know the client, their wants and needs and their desires, they then can work with that client and family to create a unique customized care plan to meet their needs as well as their budget. Once this plan is then created and is in place, these are the actual tasks that the caregiver is going to perform. That client's care manager will oversee and support their care and monitor that care, maintain regular contact with everyone involved to ensure that each client's physical and emotional well being and needs are being met. We know that client needs change over time. I'm sure you were part of that as your loved ones were aging as well.
Yes.
Some need services added, some may need to decrease care over time. It's unique for each client that we serve. So our care managers are really in tune to the clients and can make these recommended changes or adjustments to their care plan at any time as needed or as desired.
I love that, and the fact that I've experienced this personally and professionally, it isn't about one size fits all. People are people. We're all different. The plan that I love that you're talking about, because here I go again on every episode, I talk about this plan that my wife and I didn't do, and I encourage my audience and for them to tell people, please get ahead of this. Please plan, because this can be very difficult. But I like the fact you're putting together this plan, and it's for each unique individual. In also doing research about your company, I've noticed that you guys have different types of care. Can you explain that as well?
Yes, our clients and our families' peace of mind are really top priority for us. And as you said, there is no one size fits all cookie cutter approach to care. So during care assessments performed by our care managers and ongoing supervisory visits, many of our locations do choose to offer these three types of care. One being companion care. This is the ground floor, if you will. This is where the caregiver will provide companionship, light housekeeping. This is considered hands off. It's typically a small percentage of what we do. And even as an industry, if we look at home care as an industry, it's a small part of what we do, but it's very important. Laundry, light housekeeping, assistance with pets, meal preparation, cleanup, those social outings, mainly offering companionship and friendship to the clients that we serve. what we do find is that is typically then moves into our second type of care, which is our personal care. And this type is just a step up from companion care. While it concludes all the things that we just spoke about, it now takes it up a notch to include that the hands-on supportive care. It can be challenging for many who find it difficult to manage daily living tasks independently. They need this support, especially for someone who is aging or someone who may be suffering from an injury or a surgery, a procedure or a disability, who's trying to navigate a chronic condition or maybe many different conditions. It's a challenge. And this type of care for personal care can include the hands-on, the bathing assistance, dressing assistance, medication reminders, assistance with personal hygiene, toileting, what we call ADLs, or those basic self-care tasks or skills that one needs to independently care for oneself. And then our highest and last type of care I'm going to cover today is specialty care. This is that top tier care. Specialty care combines all of the benefits of the companion care, the friendship, the personal care, but with this advanced support of experienced caregivers who are trained to provide care assistance, particularly if it's related to a particular chronic condition or diagnosis. So whether someone is faced with dementia or COPD or a terminal illness or a severe disability, our care managers are going to create this specialized care plan that can include supporting their conditions and meeting any gaps in care needs. This could include those bedbound clients, those with incontinence care needs or transfers or disease-specific support. It's a more narrow, specialized focus. Oftentimes, these clients are also on service with skilled home health or maybe on a palliative care program or a hospice or receiving hospice care, and they need the more supportive care between those skilled visits. And our HomeWell Care Managers work to open the lines of communication between those care providers, everyone involved in the client's journey, to ensure that all of the client's needs are being met and all providers are talking to one another. I always say that, we don't want to be just have lunch with Miss Smith and then, be putting her down for a nap. And then physical therapy shows up from the home health agency to do a physical therapy visit that day. So even just from a scheduling perspective, it's very important that we communicate, we break down silos, we open the levels of communication to make sure that everyone's on the same page and our shared client is receiving the maximum benefits from all service providers.
So my initial word, if it's a word, is wow. I mean, that was fantastic. Like I know, unfortunately, most people in the country, as we talked about, don't really have a conversation like this. Something happens to mom, dad, grandparents, etc., don't really understand what home care can provide. And I think you've really laid it out in a fantastic way to give them an understanding of all the different levels that are possible based on mom's condition, dad's condition, etc. And also in researching Homewell, I've seen that you guys are currently launching a new consumer website. Can you kind of tell me what the goals were and why Homewell wanted to do this?
Absolutely. So I think that even in the few minutes we've been speaking today, I think an underlying theme is education. I know that that's why you do what you do. It's why I do what I do. And our website is we just had a brand new launch. We have many goals for that website, but one of the largest is providing really robust, intentional content to help educate the consumer so that they can make an informed decision about who they want to hire to take care of their loved one and what opportunities are available and out there. Those of us in the industry know you really don't know exactly what home care is until you need it. Even I fell backwards into this career. It wasn't like in high school when I was taking orientation classes of what am I going to be when I grow up and pursue what degree am I going to pursue. Home care didn't come up in that in the options, right? So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for education, and making sure that people are making informed decisions based off of what's out there, but they can't do that if they don't know what is available to them. So that's one of the things that we really want to solve for. We want to educate the consumer, whether they have an immediate need now or they're forward thinking, they're doing their due diligence, they're doing that planning to get ahead. So our website is going to be very consumer friendly. It has numerous downloads to help the client, the family on their journey. What is home care? Is this right for me? How do I start that conversation with my loved one, with my mom or dad? How do we bring up the consideration of home care for someone who may be experiencing the challenges of aging, understanding how it's paid for. We also have a great section that we call Trusted Tips and Trusted Guides that can assist family caregivers and other members of the family navigate a variety of topics that they may be encountering with a loved one. So, everyone listening, I really recommend, if you have the opportunity, go over to homewellcares.com and check out our trusted tips and trusted guides. I can guarantee that wherever you are on your journey, there will be some information and resources available that will be useful not only to you, but maybe to even coworkers, associates, those in your community. Knowledge is power, and the more that we know of what's available in our local communities to those we serve, the better we are as a community.
Great information, Michelle, and I certainly second that word, education. Everything that I've been trying to do for the last 18 years, when I realized I could barely spell the word care, and as I got out there and started educating people, I realized a lot of people didn't understand what care was as well. And I get that. You're going on with your life. You're in your 40s, in your 50s, maybe you're the adult children. And then we have older moms and dads and older grandparents. And it's not something that we freely tend to talk about within the family, but it's so important. And what I'd love to do is kind of talk about a real life scenario. We just got through the holidays, and let's put a scenario together where this happens all over the country. In this scenario, let's pick Fort Worth, Texas, and we have adult children coming home for the holidays, could be Thanksgiving, could be Christmas, with their children. In this scenario that we're talking about, they're going back to the home where they grew up. Dad already passed a few years ago. Mom is still living in the home by herself. And in this scenario, I believe the adult children, after dad passed, had a very brief, probably really brief conversation with mom about, if something starts happening with her health, what does she want to do? Where does she want to live? And what they were told rather adamantly was she wanted to stay in the home. It's the home where dad and she raised the two children, and the home where the grandchildren have been coming, and she's got her garden and she doesn't want to leave that. And I get that. But then the children come home and they start seeing that things have changed with mom, and they're starting to see that mobility is becoming an issue. Maybe it wasn't there when they saw her 6 months ago in the summertime, whatever, but it's there now. And they're also seeing that she's starting to struggle with those daily activities. I mean, they thought she was still in good health. That's how they left her 6 months ago, but she's starting to decline. And they realize, A, they gotta get back to their lives. They've moved multiple states away from mom, so it isn't like they can just get in the car and drive there. Their kids have to go back to school. And this is a typical scenario that happens, like I say, all over the country. So with this given one in Fort Worth, what are the options? What are these adult children do next? I mean, how can HomeWell possibly help them?
Yes, the scenario that you just mentioned is so common. I'm actually facing this myself with my own loved ones and aging parents while I have a son that's just exiting college. So absolutely. I think that first thing is, it's oftentimes we don't know what's available to us, right? And so, I would encourage anyone who's searching to do their due diligence and to learn as much as they can. Reach out to experts. I always say that, I could probably do my own taxes, but I don't. I reach out to a CPA for that, right? I know to reach out to experts that are going to dot I's and cross T's and provide options, give me solutions, and are educated to do so. So I encourage all to reach out to an expert in the senior care space. And of course, I encourage you to reach out to HomeWell if you happen to have a location in your area. But reach out to a senior care, non medical home care expert and get the education and insights so that you can make an informed decision before there's some sort of an emergent event. Educate yourself on the different types of home-based care services. I see a lot of misinformation of, well, mom's on Medicare and that's going to pay for everything she's ever going to need. And then it's quite the wake-up call for us as we're helping our loved ones navigate this aging journey. And you're like, Medicare doesn't pay for that, or Medicare only pays a certain amount for that. And then what are you going to do, right? So I think that home-based care in general is confusing, and many of us don't know what type of services that are out there, whether it's home health care, is it non-medical home care, is it hospice care? What does mom need? Who do I reach out to? And how do I find what's available? And reaching out to your local HomeWell expert, having a conversation with the business owner or care manager, even if HomeWell's not the best place for you or non-medical home care is not the option that's best for you, we can point you in the right directions. Oftentimes these needs are very community based, and there's lots of opportunities in the local community to take advantage of some resources that oftentimes the general consumer is just not aware exists.
Now, that is fantastic information. And folks, I mean, the whole idea of reaching out to an expert, having a conversation with them, and then potentially broaching that conversation with mom can be challenging, and finding the right words to talk to her. I mean, the whole goal is we need to make sure that she's safe and healthy, hopefully in the home. And we want to make sure that the family has peace of mind. You don't live down the block. You just can't drive over there on the way to work or when you're coming home from work. You live, as many kids do, multiple states. I've even worked with folks that live out of the United States, and something like this happens to mom, dad, etc. So Michelle's advice is exactly what you should be doing. If you need to find an expert like that, you can always reach out to me. I will give you an email in a few minutes. I mean, our goal is, and the whole goal of why Michelle's doing this, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, and why I do this, is really trying to educate folks. I mean, we have 80 million baby boomers that I'm smack in the middle of moving north. This issue is not about to get better any soon, very soon. It's going to be with this for many, many more years, not only as the parents of those boomers, and we still have about 20 or 30 million of them, But the boomers, I mean, the oldest boomers are going to be 80 in a little over 2 years. That's hard to comprehend, but that's real. So, really understanding great services like HomeWell that are out there, understanding conversations that you need to have, understanding what someone like HomeWell can provide for mom, for granddad, for your father-in-law, whomever it may be, is extremely important. As I said, I want to give you an email. You need to talk to an expert, reach out. You want to potentially come to us as an expert in this field. You want to tell some elder care stories, whether they're personal or whether you're a professional. Please reach out. And that email is eldered2023@gmail.com. I want to turn back to Michelle. First of all, I want to thank her for this excellent conversation. If you can give our audience a phone number, a website again, where they can get in contact with HomeWell, that would be fantastic, Michelle.
Absolutely. The best way to get a hold of any HomeWell location is to go directly to the website, homewellcares.com, and pick the location nearest you. Reach out and have a conversation. Start that conversation of what's available. What should I be looking at now? What can you do to get ahead of any aging needs or concerns that your loved one may have? Because as you said, Richard, it's so much easier to have this conversation before an emergent event happens. You came home from lunch today and you found your mom on the floor. She had a fall, or you're missing time away from work to care for your loved one, or your mom's in rehab and you get that call on a Thursday that she's being discharged on a Friday, and now you're scrambling. What do you do? So having these conversations as soon as possible. What are the plans? What are your goals? What control can we provide back to the client when oftentimes they feel their sense of control in their aging journey is being taken away from them? So, giving them a sense of control, which is what home care does for those clients, is very rewarding, and it allows them to be a part of their own care journey. So, you absolutely can reach out to us for further conversations and education at homewellcares.com.
That's awesome. I certainly second everything you said, folks. A great episode, a great conversation with Michelle, a lot of fantastic advice. Again, me, I hope the one, I want you to take a lot from this conversation. Please understand what we're both talking about. It truly is easier if you have this type of conversation before something happens to that loved one. And it's never going to be easy, and I talk about this all the time, but it can be easier when you have a roadmap, when you understand this happened to mom, that happened to dad, what our choices are, et cetera, et cetera. So I thank Michelle again. I'm ready to wrap this up, folks. And as I say every time, until we talk again, have yourself an awesome day.